Are you a coffee drinker? These 5 bourbons might just be perfect for you. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So I myself am a big coffee drinker, pretty much a daily habit for me. Maybe not as expansive a collection as bourbon, but certainly something that I've enjoyed for a long time. And it actually, was maybe a precursor to my bourbon journey, really liking coffee, different flavors, experiencing all these different types of lattes and, macchiatos and all that stuff. Got into that world, and then ultimately, I think that led me in a lot of ways to the bold, rich flavors of bourbon. So if you are a big coffee drinker, these are 5 bourbons that I put together on this list that I think really match or even kind of transition from coffee into those bold, dark, roasty, interesting flavors that you can get in bourbon. So whether or not you're a big bourbon fan and you're just looking for something that kind of evokes that coffee vibe, or you're a coffee drinker and you're starting to dabble in bourbon, these might be a great 5 bottles to start exploring. You'll notice that I have kind of tiered them from most available and sort of most budget friendly all the way up to most exclusive and special. That way, hopefully it appeals to a lot of people across the board. All right, without further ado, let's dive in. The first bottle on my list is a classic, but one that carries a great age statement and lots of flavor for what the price is, and that is Knob Creek 9-year-old. So for me, this bottle has a roasty toastiness to it that I really enjoy. You get nut characteristics, bold brown sugar, good caramel. This, in many ways, is a budget-friendly kind of evokes coffee vibe. So if you're into those roasty, toasty notes, I think you'll find them on Knob Creek 9. And this is usually in that $40-ish range. So definitely not going to break the bank. And will match up if you're into those, coffee vibes. It's going to match up to that, have some bolder, richer flavors at that budget kind of tier. Okay, if you're looking to step it up and be a little bit bolder, even richer flavors, this is one that you can get pretty much anywhere for around $60, and that is Old Forester 1920. You'll notice my bottle is empty. Haven't replaced it in a little while, but that's not because it isn't great. Obviously, I drank it all and enjoyed it. This steps it up in proof, 115 proof. Knob Creek's only 100 proof. Not sure the age statement on this. There is no age statement, but usually in that 4 to 6 year old range for Old Forester. Big brown sugar on this bottle, lots of cherry, and a really interesting kind of creamy peanut butter note that I get. Why does this make me think of coffee? I think it makes me think of that coffee, again, roasted vibe, but those bolder, richer flavors. This also carries an oak, slight tannic piece to it on the back end that I think will evoke some of those bitter notes in coffee. Not that bitter means anything bad, it's just one of those layers that you might pick up, and I think you'll get a little bit more oak on the back end of this bottle in particular that'll evoke that for you. Okay, so the next bottle on my list is probably the most interesting bottle on the list and the most unique, and that is Chattanooga Bottled in Bond. So 4 years old at least. Chattanooga releases 2 of these every single year. Not every single one of them is going to be the most coffee vibe, but there are certain bottles, and you can look into what the mash bills are that will definitely get you there. This one in particular is fall 2018, and it has some roasted elements to the mash bills. They experiment a lot, so keep your eye out for ones that have more roasted grains in the mash bill, because that comes through on the whiskey. For me, this one does have that roasty, toasty, almost a pecan note. Very interesting and always complex. But again, when you see those roasted chocolates, those roasted caramel, malted barley, whatever it is they're doing in those mash bills that's kind of crazy, it's going to evoke some coffee vibes for you. So I think this is a great one. And a little bit more difficult to find, but not going to break the bank again for around 50 to 60 bucks. Okay, so for the last 2 bottles on the list, we're definitely going to step it up in terms of limitedness and pricing, but both of these are stellar. First one is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So coffee to me evokes this bold, rich, in-your-face kind of experience. Interestingly enough, I often talk people through bourbon and rye by comparing them to coffee and tea. So bourbon would be more like if you're a coffee drinker with those, again, in-your-face notes, a little bit bitter, roasty, toasty. Then if you add some cream and sugar, you get some of that sweetness. Tea has this more herbal, sometimes floral essence, can go a little bit spicier. That's basically a divide between bourbon and rye. Now, it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison, but I do like to make that note for people who are just getting into it. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. Maybe I've been steering people wrong telling them that, but that's how I see it, and I think it's a helpful breakdown, a point of reference that people already understand. Why do I say all that? Because Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, that is the epitome of bold, in-your-face, going to give you some of that oak, definitely going to give you caramel, vanilla, all those flavors that may evoke some coffee vibes for you. In particular, though, I did want to point out the C batches every year, although maybe C923 from last year was an exception, just a stellar bottle that was kind of in its own flavor profile world. Most of the C batches to me are the roastiest. They're the most toasty, and I don't know why that is, but that just tends to be how I've experienced it. So maybe keep an eye out, especially for the C batches of Elijah Craig, because they tend to have an extra roasty vibe. All right, last but not least, might throw you off or be a little interesting. It's also a lot harder to find, but I do think when you really get into it, there's an interesting coffee experience, and that is Maker's Mark Cellar Aged. So I've got the 2024 bottle, but the 2023 bottle, it applies to that as well. There's an earthy quality to older makers. So I've got, again, both of these expressions so far, and both of them have some sort of espresso bean, coffee, earthy vibe. It doesn't overtake the sip. You're still going to get lots of dark fruits. You're going to get that caramel and sugar, but underneath, especially on the back end, that oak, and again, this like espresso bean note really comes through. So if you're looking for something extra special and you're a big coffee drinker, this is one I would definitely keep an eye out for. All right, everybody, that's going to do it today. Hopefully this list helps you orient yourself if you are a big coffee drinker. If you're just getting into bourbon, I'd recommend maybe starting on this end of the spectrum with Knob Creek and 1920, see how you like them. But if you're already into the game and looking for something that will evoke those vibes, any of these on the list will serve you well. So let me know in the comments below what you think of the list. And then also, again, really interested, how do you see the coffee world and the bourbon world intersecting? It seems very interesting that both are for people who like those bolder flavors and are really looking for something that suits that kind of aspect of our palates. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. While you're in the comments, definitely make sure to hit the like button on this video. That's what gets it out to the most people. And then if you haven't subscribed to the Bourbon Hutch already, would love to have you aboard for the rest of 2024 and beyond. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey, maybe keep drinking good coffee if you're already onto that train, and cheers.